my gosh, music production. Music's been a part of my life ever since I was a little kid. I can remember listening to like Devo back in the day, Devo and Queen, and falling in love with drums when I first got into music. Something about the beat.
My dad, he, you know, growing up, he used to play and sing and stuff, and he used to let me strum on his guitar, you know, when I was, you know, 3, 4, 5 years old, and you know, I just fell in love with it ever since then. And you know, he was probably my biggest inspiration in music. You know, I always wanted to be able to play like my dad.
Then I got into hard rock, you know, in the 80s, and hair bands and metal, and just grew from there. Started playing guitar back when I was about 13 years old, 14 years old, and just loved music.
I got my first guitar when I was 9. It was actually a really crappy parts guitar that my dad had stored away in a basement somewhere for years or whatever. He scrounged up whatever extra parts he needed and put it together for me.
At work. I heard about Eric at work through friends, and they mentioned that he played guitar. I'm like, oh, cool. And that he had a YouTube channel, so I'm like, oh, sweet. So then I went and listened to some of his songs on YouTube, and I could swear I heard more to the songs, more structure than what was just being played there, you know, with the raw guitar and vocal, you know, track. So I asked him if I could take some of his music and add to it, and flesh it out, so to speak. Add the drums and strings and bass and leads and stuff.
So after posting a video on Facebook, it went around word pretty quick. So Mike come up to me and he says, hey, you know, I saw your video. You know, why I do, you know, I have like a mini studio at my house. Why don't you come check it out? A lot of people ask me, oh, you know, I heard you play guitar and sing, you know, what kind of music do you play?
He has a very interesting style, very unique style. It's not quite something that you hear on the radio. So I thought that would be a nice project to you know, help him along.
And my response is always, you just got to listen to it. I mean, it's a different style for me. I like to call it acoustic alternative. You know, some people might call it you know, folk or alternative rock or something like that. But you know, when it's just me, it's just acoustic guitar and vocals, and the style of the music, you know, it's written to be, you know, acoustic, and you know, so that's what I tell people. It's acoustic alternative, I guess. I'm a big fan of 90s music. You know, I grew up in the 90s, and you know, it's just my favorite time period of all. Like, I'm only 27, but yeah, the 90s was my favorite. So a lot of bands I used to listen to, like in high school, was like 3 Doors Down. I was a big fan of them. Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, I like them. I listened to a lot of Stained. I liked Seether. Dave Matthews came about when I was a little older. Yeah, I became a huge Dave Matthews fan, and my dad is one as well.
It's been dark down here for a while. I waited too long, and I realize it's up to me. And I'm tearing down these walls that I just can't climb. I get younger, I'm wasting my time.
songs on the CD come about from either life experiences or just thoughts that I wanted to bring to life. One More Day to Live was inspired by my junior year of high school, when we had a whole string of students, and some from my class even, that committed suicide. So when Mike first approached me, he wanted to, once we talked a little bit more about the project, he says, well, I think it'd be neat to do a like 3 to 5 song EP.
It developed with a little poking and prodding, because I knew there was more material there that he could write and have a full-length EP, and we still have some to spare.
Yeah, the first song we recorded was "I'll Be Found." It was, that was the song that I put the video to, that I put up on Facebook, that got his attention. And I just wrote it, so I was, still real excited about it. So, yeah, that's the one that we recorded first, and it turned out real nice. Mike did an awesome job with it. I started writing more. It just kind of was like, hey, that'd be good for this CD. And then, we got probably 6-7 songs done, and we're thinking, well, why don't we try to push for a full album? And I talked to my dad about putting a couple of his original songs on our album.
Won't work like that.
You're not holding your tongue right.
Huh?
You're not holding your tongue right.
Yeah, probably not.
2 of his songs, Too Late and Down a Little Mexico, ended up on the CD. And he also was featured on a couple of, the 2 acoustic versions of, I'll Be Found, and the acoustic version of What You Do to Me. He was featured on. That was really nice, because it was, just a couple of acoustic guitars and raw vocals, and I just kind of want to give the audience a taste of what we sound like. That's probably the closest thing to live on the CD that, that's what you'd hear at a live show.
Well, for example, Eric would come over and we would lay down a few tracks, maybe a couple times through on the vocals, a couple times through on the rhythm guitars, and then I would work on it until well after midnight. And that would be after work every day, after work, well after midnight. And then on the weekends, there might be 12 hours worth of working on music every weekend. And that went on for quite some time.
I mean, my job is demanding. I have, 2 little ones at home and a wife, and, home life is demanding as well. Luckily, my wife was supportive enough, and she gave me my time to do this, and I'm real thankful for that.
To get different changes approved or agreed upon, it was a lot of email back and forth. There was a lot of cutting a section of the song, mastering it, and then sending it to Eric for approval. Does he like the direction I'm heading with this part of the song, or does this bridge need something else? And so we would send various versions of the same song as they developed back and forth in email.
Trying to find the time for recording, that was tough at times. I work in a maintenance department in a factory, and it's kind of a demanding job. I'd be working 6-7 days a week almost all the time.
But that's what we needed to do. Busy work life, busy family life. We couldn't be in studio working all the time, so that was the only option we had was email.
Whatever happened to those ways? Is it too late for us to get it all back? Is it too late for both of us to change?
I would say 90% of the recording was done in his room. Eric did do some recording at his house, and then sent me the files, and those files did get put into the tracks. Very small room, 8 by 10, kind of like a large jail cell.
Perfect.
Well, basic home studio.
Sitting at Tony's in Juarez, sipping out Tecate beer.
We did. I ended up getting my dad involved, and he ended up putting a couple of his songs on the CD as well, and was featured on a few of the tracks, and he really added a lot to the CD.
Yeah.
Feel the music. All right, here we go. My equipment, well, I run through Sonar Producer X2 is my recording software of choice that I'm working with. I've got a Digitech Gen X4 effects processor that we do for inputs of vocal tracks or guitar tracks. We also have a PreSonus audio interface that I use to get the sound into the PC. Got some studio speakers that I bought so we can hear some tainted music, flat music, so it's good sound. I've got a Novation Impulse 61 keyboard, MIDI keyboard controller that I work with, a Triumph 120 PV amplifier, old tube amp. Then of course I've got an Electra guitar. I've got Jackson, a BC Rich, and a new Rogue bass that I just picked up. Learning was the most fun part of this project, because I learned just as much as he learned. So the learning experience itself was a blessing, pure and simple. Panic was my feeling. What could I have done better? What needs to be done better? You know, going back through what kind of compression I used, how much compression on each track, whether it be the drums or the bass or your vocal or a backup that we doubled your vocal, or where we doubled the acoustic guitars and tried to fatten the stereo image. Compression, equalization, my gain stages, output levels. I just went through everything and then listened to it on multiple media, not only from the studio speakers, but getting it on a cell phone, getting it into a car stereo, getting it onto a home stereo, to make sure that no matter what device it's being played on, it still has that radio-ready sound. So it was a lot of panic as we were getting to the end. That was a little bit scary, because there's musicians out there, and knowing what I know of music theory and song structure, just wondering how well it will be accepted. It's kind of nerve-wracking.
Also, our good friend Eric Ivancevic has a new release today, a new CD release, and if you would like to check it out, get online, go to Facebook.
I felt relieved, but yet it's like losing a kid. You want to see him again. It's funny because you want to keep working on stuff because you had so much fun doing it. You just want to do more. So yeah, it's kind of a relief, but it leaves you hungry for more.
So one of the most different songs on the album was "What You Do to Me." It was kind of written. It's a lot different than the rest of the music that I've written, and I was real excited about it, and I wanted to play it for Mike to see what he thought. And the moment was kind of awkward, playing that song for him, because it was so different. The topic is so different for me even to write. My favorite song on the album is probably "One More Day to Live." It is probably the first song I've ever written that that stuck with me through the years. I wrote that one in high school, and Mike did a really good job at filling it out. It really captures the emotions in the song. So that's why that was my favorite.
My favorite track, there's a couple. I can't really say I have a favorite track, because I worked so hard on all of them. They're all very important to me. But the one that stands out the most to me right now is One More Day to Live, because that I did all the strings and the keyboards by playing the actual keyboard. So I'm finally getting enough confidence to be to play that song live, playing the keyboards, which is something I wanted to get back into for many, many years.
Down these walls that I just can't climb. Not getting younger.
There's frustrations working with the equipment, learning how to do it properly, how to connect things, working with audio drivers. Oh my lord, problems with audio drivers can really make your life hell when you've got a project down the line and an artist that expects output, and all of a sudden your PC dies and your audio drivers aren't working and you can't get your session to come up correctly, and it'll only play on the left channel, not the right. That was the most frustrating part, was not having a PC solely for music production, not attached to the internet where it can get random updates at any time. That was the most frustrating part. I'd love to get more artists to have more projects. Not only will they develop as an artist, but it'll help me develop as a producer and an engineer. So the more experience you have, the better you are, regardless. You will be better. That's the focal point. That's kind of like the way it felt for me when the songs went on the air. There's those 5 or 6 people in town that know me, that are musically inclined, and those are the ones you want to impress. I know that's a narrow opinion. You want to impress all your fans, but on the onset of breaking loose, the ones that really can critique you are the ones that can really push you far. It just it helps you boost yourself or better yourself, making sure that you're not cutting corners or whatnot, because you have to be that much better. Some tracks I spent weeks worth of time on, especially like with all the cellos and stringed instruments, and I had no keyboard or any other way of playing them, so I had to program them note by note and run through. And there's some very complex string sections in there where there's mid-tone melodies throughout the melody. With the equipment that we had at the time, we had no keyboards, so yeah, we could not recreate it live if we wanted to. Okay. Not to mention, I'm not that fluent at playing piano or keyboards, so for me to learn the parts I had written is very difficult. There was an error, a timing error in a song, and Eric wanted to fix it, wanted to correct it. And after listening to it a few times, he found an error that was a 1/128th off beat, and we corrected it, which is a very minute error, but he picked it out. It was pretty cool. I'll Be Found. Any of the songs that have heavy strings, string sections, string bass, cellos, violins, I think programming those note for note when we had to program note for note, those I spent the most time on to make them sound as big and precise as possible. After that, it was my guitar parts, any of my leads and solos. Worked a lot on those. Very critical of myself on my performance. Just a simple guy, working in a home studio, hoping to do more projects. Other than I love to produce music, I try to make an artist better than what they think they are, or better than what they're. I try to put it this way. I try to get an artist to see that there's much more to them than what they think there is. That's a good way of putting it.